Have you ever noticed a certain depth in the connection between a younger man and an older woman? It's a dynamic that's often misunderstood, quickly labeled or simplified into something it's not. But beneath the surface, there's something far more profound at play. It's a silent, psychological pull that, according to the work of Carl Jung, speaks to a fundamental longing in the male psyche, a crucial part of his journey to becoming a complete man. It's a need he often can't articulate, doesn't even have the words for. But today we're giving it a name. This is what every man truly longs for from an older woman. To truly grasp this deep-seated longing, we need to explore a central idea from Jungian psychology, the concept of the anima. Think of the anima not as a physical being, but as the inner, unconscious blueprint of the feminine that exists within every man. It represents the totality of those essential human qualities that a man might, often through societal conditioning, suppress in his outward personality. His capacity for deep feeling, his intuition, his innate sense of nurturing, and his ability to connect to the world beyond pure logic. This isn't about adopting stereotypical roles. It's about accessing a lost wholeness. For most men, the very first encounter with the feminine is through their mother. This primary relationship forms the initial imprint, the first draft of this inner feminine image. But for a boy to grow into a complete man, this image cannot remain static or solely tied to that of a caregiver. It must mature and evolve beyond that early template, inviting him to recognize and integrate these qualities within himself, rather than seeking them only from someone else. The challenge for so many men is that this inner feminine aspect, the anima, remains a foreign and unexplored territory within themselves. It stays unconscious, and because it's unknown, it often becomes polarized. It's either placed on a distant pedestal, an idealized fantasy of perfection and purity that no real woman could ever fulfill, or it takes on a negative, feared quality, seen as something dangerous, manipulative, or smothering that must be controlled or rejected entirely. This split is a primary source of inner conflict. This stagnation often manifests as what's known as a mother complex, where a man's entire relationship with the feminine is frozen in a dynamic that is fundamentally childish. He might be unconsciously drawn to partners who will care for him, soothe him, and make decisions for him, seeking a maternal comfort that prevents him from fully stepping into his own adult authority. Conversely, he might swing to the opposite extreme, building a fortress of fierce independence where any offer of nurturing, emotional support, or care feels like a threat to his autonomy, something to be rebelled against. In both cases, whether he is chasing a caregiver or running from one, he is not truly seeing a woman. He is relating to a symbol, a projection of his own unmet needs and unresolved history, rather than engaging with a complete, authentic human being. The consequence of this is a life and relationships that feel perpetually unfulfilling. It creates a painful cycle of dysfunction where relationships are built on a foundation of need or defiance, not mutual respect and genuine connection. The man who seeks a mother in his partner will eventually resent her for his own lack of power, while the man who rejects any softness will find himself in a lonely fortress of his own making, isolated and unable to connect on a deep emotional level. Underneath it all, there is a persistent, nagging emptiness, a sense that something essential is missing, a hollow space where true emotional depth and authentic intimacy are meant to reside. This emptiness isn't a sign of failure, but a quiet, aching signal from the psyche that a crucial part of the self is waiting to be acknowledged, integrated, and brought home. This is precisely where the presence of what we might call the older woman becomes so pivotal. It's crucial to understand that this term has little to do with a number on a birth certificate and everything to do with a quality of being, a hard-earned psychological maturity, a depth of character, and a sense of being grounded in one's own self. This is a woman who has, through her own journey of experience and introspection, come to terms with her own complexities and has integrated her own inner masculine and feminine aspects. She embodies the very wholeness he is seeking. What a man longs for, often without ever forming the conscious thought, is to encounter this integrated feminine energy in the outer world. He is drawn to a woman who unconsciously serves as a living symbol of the developed anima, a guide who can reflect back to him his own lost parts. Her role is not that of a mother who does things for him, which would only keep him in a state of dependency. Instead, she acts as a mentor for his soul, a steady presence who helps him navigate the uncharted waters of his own inner world. She represents the possibility of what he can become. In her presence, he finds something he may not have known he was missing: permission to feel. In a world that often teaches men to compartmentalize or suppress their emotions, she offers a rare and sacred space where his feelings are not judged as weak or inconvenient. They are simply acknowledged as valid, human, and real. She doesn't necessarily do anything dramatic. Her quiet acceptance alone gives him the courage to access his own emotional landscape, perhaps for the first time, without the armor of irony or shame. Furthermore, she offers wisdom, not answers. A mother might try to solve a problem to stop a child's suffering. This guide, however, understands that true growth comes from within. She resists the urge to fix him. Instead, she asks the kind of questions that turn his assumptions inside out, offering perspectives that widen his lens. She trusts his own capacity to find his way, guiding him not by handing him a map, but by teaching him how to read the stars for himself. This builds his autonomy rather than his reliance. Perhaps one of her most profound gifts is her unshakable presence. She is not easily threatened by the turbulence he may bring: his anger, his frustration, his moments of raw vulnerability or childish regression. She doesn't take it personally or retreat. She knows how to hold space, providing a kind of emotional container that is strong enough to handle his chaos without breaking. This consistent, calm acceptance allows him to finally lower his defenses and confront the parts of himself he has been running from, because for the first time, he feels safe enough to do so. Finally, she often serves as a connection to a world of deeper meaning that exists beyond spreadsheets and logic. She is often intuitively tuned into the language of symbols, dreams, art, and spirit, realms that his more rational mind may have dismissed. Through her, he is invited to consider that his life is part of a larger story. She helps him see the threads of meaning and purpose woven into his experiences, awakening a sense of wonder and a connection to something timeless that nourishes his soul in a way pure achievement never could. This isn't about her giving him a purpose, but about her reflecting back the purpose that is already stirring within him. When this transformative connection is allowed to unfold, something profound and beautiful begins to take root within the man. It is a quiet magic, a process of inner alchemy where the guidance and reflection he receives from this mature feminine presence starts to become internalized. The qualities he once admired and relied on in her, the emotional attunement, the intuitive understanding, the capacity for deep connection, slowly cease to be external attributes he simply borrows. They gradually become recognized as his own innate potential, waiting to be claimed and woven into the fabric of his being. He starts to listen to his own intuition, to trust the validity of his feelings without needing external validation, and to express himself with a newfound creativity that flows from a place of inner unity. This journey is the very heart of what Carl Jung termed individuation, the lifelong process of becoming the complete, undivided, and authentic individual one is meant to be. It is about moving beyond the fragmented pieces of the personality, beyond the roles society has assigned, and integrating the unconscious parts of the self, most notably the anima, into conscious life. The role of the mature feminine presence is not to complete him, but to act as an essential catalyst for this process. She is the mirror that allows him to finally see his whole reflection, the guide who points the way into the depths of his own soul, giving him the courage to descend and, ultimately, to return to himself more whole. The most tangible and liberating result of this inner integration is a radical shift in how he relates to the women in his life, and indeed, to the world. The compulsive projections begin to fall away. He no longer looks at a woman and unconsciously sees either a perfect ideal to be placed on a pedestal or a threatening force to be controlled. The filter is removed. He can begin to see women for who they truly are, complex, complete, and fully human individuals, with their own strengths, vulnerabilities, and agency. This allows for relationships built on genuine mutuality, respect, and authentic connection, rather than on unconscious need, fantasy, or fear. This wholeness transcends his personal relationships and permeates his entire existence. The integration of the anima brings a sense of inner balance and peace that is not dependent on external circumstances. The fierce, driven energy of his masculine side is now tempered and humanized by the compassionate, connective energy of his inner feminine. He can be both strong and gentle, assertive and receptive, logical and intuitive. He moves through the world with a newfound confidence that isn't brittle or performative, but rooted in the quiet knowledge of his own completeness. The emptiness that once fueled a restless search for something outside himself is replaced by a deep, abiding sense of being at home within himself, capable of both giving and receiving love in its truest, most unconditional form. As we explore this profound dynamic, it is absolutely vital to clear away some common misunderstandings that can cloud its true meaning. First and foremost, this connection is fundamentally not about romance in the conventional sense, nor is it a fetish or a simple preference for a certain age. While this transformative process can certainly unfold within the container of a romantic partnership, its core engine is psychological and spiritual. The longing is for wholeness, not for a partner in a way that society would quickly categorize. Reducing this deep, archetypal pull to a mere romantic or physical attraction misses the entire point. It's about the soul's evolution, not the fulfillment of a surface-level fantasy. When romantic feelings are present, they are often a byproduct of this powerful psychic attraction, not the sole purpose of it. It is also critically important to state, unequivocally, that it is never a woman's job, duty, or responsibility to fix, heal, or complete a man. This dynamic is not a prescription where one person is the project and the other is the therapist. The idea that a woman should enter a relationship with the goal of being a muse or a healer is a dangerous burden to place on anyone. This process cannot be forced or demanded. It is an organic, unconscious unfolding that happens naturally when two people meet at a certain point in their journeys. The woman in this dynamic is not a service provider for a man's growth. She is simply being her whole, integrated self, and that very wholeness naturally acts as a mirror and a catalyst. The work of integration remains, and must always remain, the sole responsibility of the man himself. Finally, the term older woman is ultimately a metaphor, a symbol for a stage of psychological maturity and integrated being. It is not a literal definition. Chronological age is a poor indicator of this quality. One can encounter a woman in her 20s who possesses a remarkable depth of wisdom, emotional clarity, and self-possession that makes her a natural embodiment of this guiding energy. Conversely, one can meet a woman in her 60s who may still be navigating her own unconscious conflicts and has not yet achieved that inner integration. The focus should always be on the quality of consciousness a person carries, not the number of years they have lived. This concept points us toward a stage of human development, a state of being that is accessible to anyone, regardless of age, who has done the work to know and accept themselves fully. And so, we come to understand that this deep, often unspoken longing is not a search for a mother or a fantasy. It is a far more profound journey toward the self. It is a search for a guide who can point the way, a mirror that can honestly reflect back the hidden parts of one's own spirit, and a living connection to the deeper, wiser, and more feeling dimensions of life that many are taught to wall off in order to navigate the world. This yearning is, at its heart, a soul's hunger for its own completion. This pull is not about finding another person to fill a void, but about recognizing in another the very qualities we are being called to awaken within ourselves. It is a longing for wholeness, a quiet but persistent whisper from the soul that knows there is more to being a man than what is often presented. It is a conversation that happens in a language beyond words, in the silent spaces where true growth begins. We would love to hear your perspective on this. Have you ever found yourself in this dynamic, whether as someone offering that grounded presence or as someone feeling that pull toward growth? What did that experience reveal to you? Please share your stories and reflections in the comments below. Your insight adds a vital layer to this conversation. If this exploration resonated with you, if it touched on something familiar or sparked a new understanding, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It helps us continue creating content that delves into these hidden landscapes of the human experience, exploring how these timeless psychological patterns shape our relationships and our lives. Thank you for watching.